In a cacophonous shelter, the world was alive with the sounds of distant dogs barking, the clang of metal doors, and the echo of footsteps on cold concrete. Amidst the chaos, a solitary figure remained silent, the French Bulldog, tucked away in the farthest corner, pressed against the wall. Ears low and eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope, he watched as life swirled around him, wondering what had gone wrong in a life once filled with love. His breathing was labored, each inhale a battle, as if every breath meant fighting for his existence. The staff would later recount how he was left tied outside the shelter before dawn. No note to explain his abandonment, just waiting for someone who never returned. Days turned into weeks, each moment stretching endlessly as people walked by his cage, some offering kind smiles, others fleeting glances, but none pausing long enough to truly see him. Puppies came and went, big dogs and loud ones, but he remained, a silent observer in a world that had moved on. Nighttime, however, was the hardest. When the lights dimmed, he would inch closer to the front of his cage, chin resting against the cold metal bars, his heart leaping at every creak of a door. Perhaps this time, he thought, someone would come for him. But each time, the door would close again, and hope learned how to be quiet, retreating into the shadows of his heart. Stress etched itself into his small frame, his breathing becoming shallow, sometimes refusing food altogether. But his eyes, oh, they continued to search. Then, on an ordinary evening, everything began to shift. Her name was Sarah. Each night, she sat beside his cage, her voice soft and kind, reaching out even when he didn't respond. One fateful night, she opened the door and settled on the floor, an invitation he dared to accept. Slowly and cautiously, the French Bulldog walked to her, resting his head on her knee with a quiet plea, "Please don't leave yet." It was the first time she cried in the shelter, tears falling for a creature who had endured so much. With each passing day, their connection deepened, but reality struck hard when the vet visits began. Medicine and tests became his new normal, the quiet moments filled with uncertainty about whether he would make it. Yet, he was strong, not in the loud aggressive way, but in the quiet resilience that defined his spirit. Then one afternoon, a man entered the shelter, his face lined with grief from losing his wife a year prior. The silence of his home had become unbearable. He hadn't come looking for a dog, but something compelled him to wander through the cages. As he reached the end of the row, their eyes met, and an unspoken recognition of loss flowed between them. The French Bulldog did not bark or jump. He simply stepped forward, pressing his face against the bars, and in that moment, something extraordinary happened. A quiet yes exchanged without words. The paperwork took days, filled with anticipation and longing, but finally, the cage door opened, not for cleaning or treatment, but for freedom. The car ride home was fraught with tension. He sat stiffly, flinching at every bump, every stoplight. He looked back, terrified that this too might be another goodbye, but it wasn't. As they reached their new sanctuary, the house smelled warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the shelter. He moved cautiously, from room to room, afraid the dream might vanish if he moved too quickly. That night, he curled up beside the man's bed, a guardian in the stillness of the night. Weeks slipped by, and with them came healing. His breath grew steadier, his appetite returned. The once timid dog emerged, displaying the small snorts and sudden bursts of joy that had long been hidden. He followed the man everywhere, kitchen, couch, front door, always close, always loyal. Then came the storm, a tempest that rattled the windows and shook the house. The man awoke to a warm weight on his chest, the dog trembling in fear. "It's okay, I've got you," he whispered. And in that moment, two broken souls found solace in each other, no longer alone in their grief. They healed together, walks grew longer, and laughter began to fill the empty spaces. Friends noticed the change. The man smiled more, and the dog's tail wagged faster. He learned his name, learned to trust, and every night, without fail, the French Bulldog would curl up beside him, breathing steady, eyes closed. Finally safe, he had found his home, and the echoes of the past began to fade into a new, hopeful tomorrow.